Ever scroll through Instagram and just wonder, like, how much of it's, like, real? You know, truly authentic.
Hmm.
Well, buckle up because today we're diving deep into a story that just might make you question everything you see online.
Oh, this is a good one.
It's the wild tale of Belle Gibson, an influencer who built a whole wellness empire on a shocking lie.
Yeah, Gibson's story. I mean, what's fascinating about her is that she didn't just, try to sell you on the usual influencer stuff like fashion or beauty products.
Right.
She built her brand, a whole empire really, around the claim that she was battling stage 4 brain cancer.
And she went all in on this lie, right? Like
Oh.
shaved head, hospital selfies, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, absolutely. She committed.
Wow.
Gibson spun this elaborate story, using it to gain followers, rake in investments for her app. Even mainstream media was eating it up.
It's crazy how she pulled it off for so long.
Well, you see, as humans, we're just wired to connect with genuine emotions.
That's true.
And Gibson understood this. I mean, she really understood this, and she exploited it ruthlessly. In a world where everyone's online persona is so carefully curated, people crave something real, something raw, something authentic. And Gibson, with her, seemingly relatable story of a young woman fighting this terrifying disease, she tapped into that desire perfectly.
Yeah, it's crazy how she made it all seem so believable.
Yeah.
I mean, she presented herself as this inspirational figure sharing uplifting content alongside her cancer updates. Almost like she was using the illness to give more weight to her other content.
Exactly. And that's a crucial part of how she was able to pull this off for so long. The cancer wasn't just a side note, it was woven into the very fabric of her brand.
Yeah.
Gibson even launched an app, which she claimed was this revolutionary mental health tool, and it was directly tied to her alleged triumph over cancer.
Oh, yeah, the app. I remember reading about that. It
Yeah.
felt like everyone was talking about it at the time.
Yeah.
So how did that tie into her whole scheme?
Okay, so the app itself, without getting into specifics, wasn't anything groundbreaking, really. But the way Gibson marketed it was, dare I say, genius.
Okay.
She positioned it as a direct result of her personal battle, claiming that the methods in the app were what helped her overcome cancer.
So people weren't just buying an app. They were buying into hope.
Yes.
This idea that they, too, could conquer anything, just like Belle.
That's it.
No wonder she got so much attention, and the money just rolled in.
Yeah.
It all sounds so convincing when you put it like that. But wait, hold on a minute. Are you saying that everyone who shares their health journey online is suspect? There have to be genuine cases too, right?
Of course, not everyone is being deceptive, right? Many people genuinely use their platforms to connect and share their experiences, both good and bad.
Right.
But Gibson's case highlights how easily trust can be exploited, especially in the online world.
That's true.
She used this heartbreaking story to create an image of resilience, which made people want to believe in her, And that's what made the whole thing so effective.
It's unsettling to think about how masterfully she constructed this persona. But at some point, the truth had to come out, right?
Thankfully, yes. Inconsistencies started popping up, Details didn't add up, timelines were fuzzy, and most importantly, there wasn't a shred of medical evidence to back up her claims.
Oh, wow.
Eventually, investigative journalists caught wind of these discrepancies and started digging.
Okay, so the journalists are on the case. I bet this is where things start to unravel.
Absolutely. These journalists, they couldn't find any record of Gibson ever receiving treatment for cancer. No hospital visits, no doctor confirmations, nothing. It became clear that she had fabricated the entire thing.
Wow, that's a whole other level of deception. This is like a classic example of how scammers use emotion to bypass our rational defenses.
It is.
They know if they can make us feel something strongly enough, we're less likely to question the details.
But let's move on to the fallout. What happened when the truth came out? People must have been devastated. Oh, the fallout was huge. Followers felt betrayed, investors were furious, and the media, which had praised her as an inspiration, quickly shifted to exposing the depth of her lies.
Yeah.
Imagine feeling that sense of anger and disillusionment. To have your trust violated, especially when it comes to something as sensitive as illness.
Oh, absolutely.
It's incredibly painful.
This is making me think about all those times I've scrolled through Instagram and just felt that pang of envy, that feeling of inadequacy.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get caught up comparing ourselves to these seemingly perfect lives.
Oh, I know.
But Gibson's story is a stark reminder that what we see online is often a carefully constructed facade.
Exactly. And that's the danger of blindly trusting influencers. They're masters at crafting images and narratives that resonate with their audience. But sometimes those narratives are built on a foundation of lies.
Right.
Gibson's story isn't isolated. We're seeing a rise in what some are calling scamfluencers.
Oh, wow.
Who exploit trust for profit.
That's a whole new world.
This raises questions about the very nature of online authority and how we as consumers navigate this digital landscape.
So it's not just about one scammer. It's a symptom of a larger issue.
Exactly.
But before we get into that, let's talk about the consequences Gibson faced.
Yeah.
Was she held accountable for her actions?
Oh, absolutely. Gibson faced serious legal repercussions.
Yeah.
She was hit with multiple fraud charges.
Wow.
In order to repay the money she'd swindled from investors.
Yeah.
Essentially, her career as an influencer was over.
That's good to hear. Actions have consequences, especially when you're playing with people's trust and vulnerabilities.
Right.
But what about the broader impact? Did her case change how people view influencers or approach online content?
That's a question researchers have been grappling with ever since Gibson's story broke.
Yeah.
On the one hand, her case was a wake-up call for many.
Like a reality check.
Yeah, it exposed the dark side of influencer culture and made people more critical of what they see online.
So a dose of healthy skepticism for the digital age. It's like we need to approach our social media feeds like a crime scene, looking for clues and dusting for fingerprints.
That's a great analogy. Gibson's case forced people to acknowledge that anyone can create a compelling story online, whether it's true or not.
Right.
It highlighted the importance of research, questioning claims, and not taking everything at face value, even if it comes from someone you admire.
Right, because we all have those influencers we follow who we just implicitly trust.
Yeah.
But even then, we can't just turn off our critical thinking skills.
Exactly. It's about being an informed consumer of information, whether it's about health, wellness, or anything else.
Yeah.
Don't just blindly accept something as truth because it sounds good or confirms your biases.
Right.
Look for evidence. Be willing to question even the most compelling narratives. This reminds me of a time I almost fell for a similar scam online.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was a health product endorsed by this fitness influencer I followed. I was so close to buying it. But then I started digging a little deeper and found out the claims were completely bogus.
Oh, no.
It was a real eye-opener for me.
It's easy to get swept up in the hype, especially when you admire someone.
It is.
But we have to be our own advocates, especially when it comes to our health.
Absolutely. Gibson targeted people interested in health and wellness, exploiting their desire for answers and guidance. Yeah. She understood her audience perfectly. She knew their hopes, fears, and aspirations, tailoring her message to resonate with those deeply personal desires. It wasn't just about selling an app. It was about selling a dream, a vision of health and vitality that people desperately wanted to believe in.
Wow.
And that's what made her deception so insidious. She profited off people's vulnerabilities and genuine desire to improve their lives.
Her story was tailor-made for that audience. It's almost like she hijacked their empathy, using it against them.
In a way, yes. And that's why it's crucial to maintain that critical distance, that ability to step back and analyze objectively, even when emotions run high. Remember, real life is messy and complicated.
Yeah.
It rarely fits neatly into a perfectly packaged narrative.
Right.
Pay attention to inconsistencies, gaps in the timeline, or contradictory statements.
So we should be wary of those overly polished, picture-perfect stories. It's like, if it feels like it's straight out of a movie script, that's a red flag.
Precisely. And don't be afraid to do your own research.
Right.
If someone is making claims about a medical condition or treatment, consult reputable sources like medical websites or healthcare professionals.
Right.
Get a second opinion.
It's empowering to realize we have the tools to verify information and not just take someone's word for it, even if they come across as an expert.
Absolutely.
You can be digital detectives, right? Analyzing the evidence, spotting inconsistencies.
Exactly. It's not about being cynical or distrusting everyone online, but about being informed, empowered, and ultimately protecting yourself from exploitation.
This is making me think about influencer culture in general. We've talked about the dangers of manipulation and deceit, but what does it say about us that we're so quick to elevate these individuals to positions of authority and influence? Is it our desire for connection, guidance, role models?
That's a great question that gets to the heart of some complex societal issues. I think it reflects our longing for connection, for guidance, for someone to show us the way in a world that can feel increasingly fragmented and uncertain.
Right.
We gravitate towards those figures who appear to have it all figured out,
Oh,
who project an image of success, happiness, and well-being.
And social media? with its curated feeds and highlight reels, creates a perfect breeding ground for those aspirational figures.
Absolutely. It's a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
Influencers provide content that feeds our desires, and we as consumers reward them with our attention, loyalty, and often our money. The cycle can be hard to break free from, especially when you're bombarded with images of perfection day in and day out.
But as we've seen with Belle Gibson, those images are often carefully constructed illusions, designed to sell us a product, a lifestyle, an idea.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're built on lies.
It is a house of cards.
It's like we're living in a world of smoke and mirrors, struggling to distinguish between what's real and what's not. So how do we address these challenges, both individually and as a society?
It starts with education. We need to equip ourselves and future generations with the critical thinking skills necessary to navigate this digital landscape.
Yeah.
Teaching media literacy, digital citizenship, and the importance of discerning fact from fiction are crucial.
It's about empowering people to be more critical consumers of information,
Yeah,
to question what they see and hear,
absolutely.
and to conduct their own research.
Yeah.
But shouldn't we also hold platforms accountable? Social media companies play a role in this too, right?
Absolutely. Social media companies have a responsibility to address misinformation and create safer spaces for users.
Right.
That means stricter policies, fact-checking content, and taking action against those who violate community guidelines. It's about fostering a culture of transparency and accountability.
Right.
Influencers should be open about their relationships with brands, sponsored content, and any conflicts of interest.
Transparency is key.
Yes.
It's about rebuilding trust, both in individual influencers and the online community as a whole. Ultimately, we need a digital world where authenticity is valued, honesty is rewarded, and deception is swiftly exposed.
Well said. It's ironic that Gibson's story, built on a lie, has sparked such important conversations about truth, authenticity, and the responsibility of online influence.
It is.
It's a reminder that even in the darkest corners of the internet, there's a glimmer of hope.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
We all have a role in shaping the digital world.
We do.
By being informed, engaged, and critical, we can create a more honest, transparent, and fulfilling online experience for everyone. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. If Belle Gibson could fool so many with a made-up illness, what other more subtle forms of manipulation are lurking in our feeds? It's something to think about as we navigate this ever-changing digital world, you know?
That's a powerful question.
Yeah.
And one we should all be asking ourselves, I think. It's easy to get, caught up in the surface glamour of influencer culture.
Yeah.
But Gibson's case is a stark reminder that there's often more going on beneath the surface.
Yeah, it's like those perfectly filtered photos,
Right.
They make you question reality.
Exactly. And these subtle forms of manipulation can be even more insidious because they're not always so obvious. Think about, how influencers present this, idealized version of themselves and their lives. Everything's perfect, from their clothes to their vacations to their seemingly effortless success.
Yeah, it's the never-ending highlight reel.
Right. And while there's nothing inherently wrong with, sharing positive experiences, the problem arises when these curated images become the yardstick by which we measure our own lives.
Yeah, it creates a sense of inadequacy, a feeling that we're not measuring up.
Yeah.
Even though deep down, we know it's all a carefully constructed facade.
You get it. And that's where the manipulation comes in.
Right.
When we're constantly bombarded with these images of perfection, it makes us more susceptible to the messages these influencers are pushing.
So we're more likely to buy the products, adopt the lifestyles,
Right.
even internalize the values and beliefs they're selling.
Precisely. And this can be especially dangerous when it comes to things like, health, wellness, personal development. Influencers often position themselves as experts in these areas, offering advice that may not be, evidence-based or even safe.
And because they've built up trust and authority with their followers, people just take their word for it.
They do.
Without question.
Without question.
Or doing their own research.
It's like we're handing over our critical thinking skills.
How?
Surrendering to the allure of these seemingly perfect individuals who claim to have all the answers.
Oh, it's so easy to fall into that trap.
It is.
Right.
Here's a tip I use when evaluating influencers.
Okay.
I look for inconsistencies in their stories.
Yeah. Oh,
Do they overemphasize the struggle,
Yeah.
to make their success seem more impressive?
Oh, that's good. It's like they're trying to manufacture a narrative that's more compelling than reality.
Exactly. And we have to remember that this can have real-world consequences,
Right.
especially when it comes to our health and well-being.
Yeah.
We've seen cases where influencers have promoted dangerous diets, unproven medical treatments,
It's scary.
even harmful beauty practices,
Yeah.
all in the pursuit of some, idealized standard of perfection.
It's a reminder that we need to be incredibly discerning about who we trust
We do.
and what information we consume, even if it comes from someone with, like, a massive following.
Yeah, or a seemingly credible platform.
It's not just about being cautious about specific products or recommendations. It's about being aware of the underlying messages
Yeah.
and values they're promoting.
Mm-hmm.
Are they fostering a culture of comparison and competition?
Right.
Are they perpetuating unrealistic beauty standards? Are they contributing to, a sense of anxiety and inadequacy among their followers?
These are great questions to ask ourselves as we engage with influencer content.
They are.
It's about taking a step back and critically evaluating the impact these individuals have on our lives,
It
both
is.
individually and collectively.
And it's about reclaiming our own agency, our own power to define what matters to us,
Yeah.
what we value, and how we want to live our lives.
I like that.
You don't need to conform to someone else's idea of perfection.
Yeah.
You can create your own definition of success, happiness, and well-being.
That's so important. A definition that's, authentic,
Yes.
meaningful, and ultimately fulfilling. Right. It's about remembering that we have the power to choose who we follow, what content we consume,
Right.
and how we allow it to shape our lives.
Yeah.
And using our voices and platforms to promote a more positive, authentic, and empowering online culture.
Well said. I think we've reached the end of our deep dive into the world of Bill Gibson and the dark side of influencer culture.
We have.
I hope you found this conversation insightful and thought-provoking.
It's been a pleasure exploring these complex issues with you.
Likewise.
It's a reminder that we all have a role to play in shaping a better digital world.
Absolutely. To all our listeners, thanks for joining us on this journey. Remember to stay curious, stay critical, and always be willing to question the narratives that shape our world.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
Keep diving deep indeed.